Okay, welcome everyone. Today is the third day, and as per the plan, we know that till the time we had seen the mindset and system part as the first day. On second day, we thought about in detail, like what is a lean and what is a Six Sigma, and how these two approaches can be used together for the best results. Now, today we are going to talk about the define and measure phase. Now, if you see the define and measure phase itself, it is a cumulatively is more than 24 hours of training. And the intent of this entire program, 5 day program, is that to give you the confidence and to give you the idea about how this program is working, what are the different phases, and how we can use this approach to solve any kind of problem, right? So I'm not going into the more detail of it, but I'm also not leaving it as a untouched. So I'm going to help you to understand exactly what is happening into that particular phase, what are the various tools and techniques that phase consists of, right? So let's start with the first define phase. Now when we talk about the define phase, it is basically the project planning phase. We are going to set the goals, why we are going for this implementation, and once we complete the project, because Six Sigma we are going to use the project based approach. So once we complete that project, what are our deliverables? So everything we are going to note down here as a part of define phase. So what are the things here? We are going to use various project identification tools here. Project identification tools. So there are many tools we are going to use, and we will see one of the project identification tool, that's a Pareto chart today. And if possible, if time permits, we will also see another one, that's the project prioritization matrix. Then next part of the define phase is to identify voice of the customer, voice of the business, and employees, right? So this is also very important to understand. Third, we need to document everything that we are going to learn as a part of this project definition, to identify the goal, to define what will be the investment, what will be the benefits, then who are going to work on that project. So how we can define that? For that purpose, we are going to use two absolutely proven tools from the project management. These are project charter and project tracker. Then we are also going to learn the 7 management and planning tools. Why it is important? Because we need to improve our management and planning tools as a part of this program. Okay, because as we are going to deal with the various I can say the constraints, we must be ready to handle all that constraints. So how we can be made ourselves as a prepare for it by using this management and planning tools. And the last but not the least part of this define phase is the team management. We need to learn that team is not getting developed automatically, and it is not also getting developed immediately. So there is a process through which every team passes, and after that it is reaches to the performance stage. It is going to the forming, storming, norming, and after that performing. So it's very important, so that we are having the time allow team to reach from one phase to the another phase, and at the same time we need to understand all our team members at various team stages. We need to use the different tactics, we need to follow the best practices, and we need to understand everything. Now, what is the most critical point that I had seen? Black belts are suffering into the team management. For green belt, it's absolutely fine because it's just the basics of the team. But when we talk about the black belt, it is in more detail because we are going to talk about how we are going to manage the team as a project leader, right? And it is also the most critical point from the examination perspective, because I'd also seen that the black belts, when they are getting the examination, they are having the very good score onto the other topics, but team management is the topic where they are having the least score. Why it is so? Because it is not a part that is we just learn. Okay, it is a part how we are going to apply that. That's why this is very important. So the defined phase mainly consists of 5 that elements that I have explained, 5 these important topics. Out of that, we are going to focus on project identification. We will see one of the two. And for voice of customer, I will also explain one of the two. Then we will move to the major phase. Now, when we talk about this defined phase, what it consists of. So the defined phase talks about how we are going to define the practical problem, on which problem we are going to work, right? So we are going to create here as a project charter, who are the team, who will be the team leader, facilitator, and what are the all roles and responsibilities that we are going to define here. So for that purpose, we are having the teaming, we are having the various project management tools that we are going to use, like some of the tools from the management and planning tools and some of the tools from the project management like project charter and tracker. So define phase talks about define the problem that we are going to solve by using this Six Sigma approach. Okay. Now, when we talk about the define phase, we need to understand what is the approach that we are going to follow, right? So please understand this slide. Once we understood this slide, I think you got how the define phase is going to be work. Latter part is just the use of tools and tactics and how we are going to use them effectively. But if you understand this slide, learning of the define phase will be much smoother. And not only for the define phase, but also the major and subsequent phases, you will learn more efficiently, right? That's why it's very important. Now let's understand it has 5 parts. The first part is about identify critical issues that you want to improve. Identify critical issues that you want to improve. Now, what are these critical issues? You might be remembered at explained in detail that these issues can be any one from the 4 categories. Now, what are these 4 categories? I explained to you yesterday. The first category was customer satisfaction. So we need to we need to think about what are the areas for which our customer is not satisfied. So we need to take the project to improve that. So here we are identifying that issue and we are going to take the project to improve that. Second category we had seen is the area of inefficiencies, right? So that means where all the people or employees are struggling to attain the goals, or there are many losses because of that we are not getting the productivity targets, like our OE is low, quality rate is low, something like that. Third is we talk about the strategic goals of the organization. Every organization is having the planning for 1 year, 3 year, and 5 years, right? So that means initially they are going to decide what is their 5 year goal. Then that 5 year goal is getting divided into 1 year goal. That is called as a Hoshin Kanri model. Now, once we define that 1 year goal, what are the goals for this year and what are the projects we can take? That is the third category. And fourth one is about the financial benefits. Now, many times it is like that we are meeting all the metrics, but we are lagging into the financial metrics. So we need to initiate the projects. We need to identify what are the areas where we are not reaching to our financial goals, right? So what are these losses? We need to identify that and we need to take the projects into that category, right? So the first thing, identify critical issues that you want to improve. That from any one of these categories: customer satisfaction, strategic goals of the organization, area of inefficiencies, or financial benefits. Once we define that, then we need to develop a business case and project charter. Now, what is the meaning of that? Business case means we need to understand why there is a need to take the project now. And if we don't take this project now, what will be the consequences of it, right? So that we need to mention. Then again, we need to mention what are the resources required, what will be the benefit from it, who is going to work on that, what are the resources that we require, who is going to provide to us, what will be the risk, how we are going to mitigate that, what are the constraints, assumptions, what will be the timeline. So everything we are going to document here, right? So that means we are giving a clarity to the team. Okay, this is the goal. For that purpose, we have taken this project and we need to follow this methodology. We are having this outline so that we can reach to our goals. In third step, we are going to prepare the project tracker and RASI model. Now, this is again very important because here we are going to make the tentative project plan, project tracker into the define phase. And periodically, as soon as we complete any one phase, let's say once we complete the define phase, we are going to review the entire things. Once we complete the measure phase, again, we are going to review the project charter and project tracker. So it is not like that once we create the project charter and project tracker, it's done. No. After the end of the every phase, during the tollgate review, we need to revisit these documents and we need to review them. We need to edit them, we need to modify them so that we can meet the timeline. Some cases, it is like we need to speed up the process. Sometimes it is like slow down, improve the effectiveness. So what kind of actions we need to take, that is totally depending on that particular progress. So the project tracker is very important that we are going to prepare here. Now, what is this project charter? It consists of the activities, major activities, not small activities, major activities, and how we are going to complete that project activities with respect to the time. Then RACI model talks about who is responsible for any activity that we have formed, who is accountable for that, who is the person for which we must have the consultant, and some of the things that just need to be informed to the people. So who are these informed authorities? So that RACI model is also need to be prepared. Now this is not need to prepare for all the activities, but we need to make it for the major activities. Now once we complete this exercise, then to clarify the scope of our working and how we are going to put the efforts, we need to map the current process. Now this is not a process mapping that we are going to see. The process mapping is very detailed. That will be the part of major phase. Here, we are talking about just the business process, right? Why we are taking this project. So we are going to highlight what are the areas or what are the departments on which we need to work, right? So it is a map the current process. And at the last, we need to define who is our customer. Now that customer can be internal or external, and what is their exact requirement. So that we need to document, that we need to finalize. So this is the entire approach that we need to use into the defined phase. Is this clear?
Yes, sir.
Great. So once you understand this slide, if there is no confusion, I can say you're having the complete clarity about how this phase is going to be worked. Now let's talk about some of the tools that we are going to use as a part of this. Now I have selected the project uh, identification tool as a Pareto chart. Why so? Because it is the most used tool, and I can say in every project, irrespective of your type of industry, whether it's a manufacturing, pharmaceutical, IT, BPO, or any other industry, it doesn't matter. You're going to use this tool, right? So that's why I'm going to cover that tool in detail. Maybe you are having the idea about it because as you're having so much years of experience, I'm sure that you already use that many times, but it's worth to repeat. Okay,
Yes, sure.
great. So Pareto chart, as you already know, this is a consist of two important parts. The first one is called as a bar bars, right? So it's a combination of bar graph and line graph.
Yes.
So the bars, we can see these are represented by the vertical lines, where the line is indicating the cumulative total. Here, if you talk about the Pareto chart, if you go to the history, it's uh, designed by, or I can say it is suggested by the Joseph M. Juran. So yesterday we had seen one of the two quality gurus, Deming and Juran. So Juran has suggested this very fantastic and very good tool, and it is named after the Italian economics Wilfredo Pareto. So on his name, this tool is called as a Pareto chart. Now, if you see, this Pareto chart talks about the 80-20 principle. That means 80% of the effect come from 20% of the causes. Now, when we talk about the 80-20 principle, it is not exactly the 80-20 always, but it will be around that. The intent, the logic is like that. We need to focus on very few causes or very few areas that is giving us more significant effects, more significant impact. Like for example, it is applicable to everywhere. If you say our entire product sales, we can say only 20% of the products are giving 80% of the sales. 20% of the accidents are driven by the 80%. 80% accidents are done by 20% of the people. 80% of the beer in the world is drunk by 20% of the people. So it is applicable to everywhere. If you're going to use any kind of analysis, if you start to put this analysis in place, you will see always there is a scope for 80-20. As I already told, it will not always be 80-20 in some cases. It can be 70-30 or something around that. But the logic is we need to focus on the elements which is having the more impact on our causes. We can use Pareto chart to identify most frequent defects, the most common causes for the defects, the most frequent causes of customer complaint, the most contributing elements in any one of the problems, right? So when we are going to identify what are these major contributors, we are going to use this Pareto chart. The Pareto chart can help us to focus on improvement efforts on areas where the largest gains can be made. That's why it is called as the 80-20 principle. Here we can see what is the standard practice that we are using. We are seeing where is this humility line touches to the 80%. What we are saying, where is this cumulative line touches to the 80% of the defects, and we are selecting all that bars which are representing the number of defects. Like for example, in this Pareto chart, we can see overpriced and small portions that are contributing more than 80%. So instead of focusing on other defects, it will also consist of the category author. So that can be the inclusive of all other defects. So these are the, I can say the 6 top defects and other is more defects. So instead of focusing on all the defects, we are just focusing on these 2. So what is going to happen here? As we are just focusing on 2 defects, the entire forces, entire resources are getting allocated to only to these 2 defects, right? And that's why once we have the focus on these 2 defects, then we are going to reach to the root causes of them. We are going to take the actions and we are going to achieve the significant results. That's why it is recommended to use the Pareto chart during the project identification. 80% of the effects come from 20% of the causes. Is it clear?
Yes.
Great. Now, let's take one example, and I will also show you how we can perform that using the Microsoft Excel. Do you know how to perform the Microsoft Pareto chart into the Microsoft Excel in 1 click?
No.
Okay, so that's great. So I can share with you today, so you can learn that. So meantime, please open the file, the Excel file that I have shared with you is the define phase template.
Just a second.
Yeah, just open that. So you will also learn that how we can perform that. Okay, so the meantime it open. Let's see this example and then we will go to the template again. Okay. So this is the example for Pareto analysis. Suppose you work for a company that manufactures motorcycles. Are you here?
Yes, I am here.
Okay, great. Okay, I thought you are opening the Microsoft Excel. So let it open.
I'm doing that. Actually, I will have to take it from my mobile to laptop. Because
Okay.
some
So
yes,
okay,
I
so
will practice that later on. You can continue here.
okay, no issue. So this is an example. Suppose you work for a company that manufactures motorcycles and you want to reduce the quality defects that are arising from defective speedometers.
Right.
So there is a complaint that yes, yeah, I think Lakshay has joined. He is little bit late today.
Yes.
Okay. So the example is like you want to reduce the quality defects which are arriving from defective speedometers. Now, during an inspection, a certain number of speedometers are rejected, and the data is collected for the type of defects versus what is the quantity, right? So, what is the data here? What is the defect, and for that defect, how many number of speedometers that are defective? So, once we take that data, so we can use the Pareto chart to identify how many defects that are coming into the 80%, or what are the defects on which we need to focus so that we can get the most impactful results or most effective results, right? So let me stop sharing and share you with the Microsoft Excel. So let's see that how we can perform this Microsoft Excel. Okay, can you see this Microsoft Excel?
Yes.
Okay, so you can also use that later on. You can also perform it. If it is possible, if you have opened it, you can also perform simultaneously. Okay, now you can put your microphones on now because we are going to use this process. So I need your involvement in this. Okay,
Sure.
great. So this is the defect. we are having like missing screws, missing clips, defective housing and all that. And we are having the count. So that means for defect, how many number of defects are there? What is the count of that defect? Like missing
Right.
screws 274, missing clips 15 and like that.
Right.
Now we want to prioritize them. So how to do that? There is a very good option that is available into the Microsoft Excel. That means we just need to use the one click and we can use the Pareto chart. Okay, so how to do that? Click anywhere into this, go to the insert, and inside you can see there is a chart option. Can you see this chart option? Yes. Into the chart, you can see here is some bar graph you are going to see. So click on that drop down, and here we can see there are three tools, three graphical tools that we can plot into the first glance,
Okay.
which is
Yeah, yeah,
uh,
yeah, got it.
histogram, Pareto chart, and box plot.
But I was thinking for some function or what. I thought that some function has been incorporated or what. Yeah, yeah, got it. Yes.
Okay, okay, great. So we can click on this.
Yeah, yeah. Then
Just
it will
click on
come.
this
Yeah.
Pareto. So you will get the Pareto chart,
Yes.
right? So it is indicating what are the defects and what is the number of defects.
Mhm.
Now, the beauty of this is like that you can select the any number of templates from the top here. Let's say we select this one. This is better. Okay, we can have this one. And we are having this element option, chart elements. So
Right.
you can click on that and you can add the other elements that you want to add. For example, if
Mhm.
you want to add the legends, you want to add the data labels that you can also add, right? Access titles also, if you want to add, you can add. It's not required. Uh, Legend is also not required. We just need the title. So you can also add here, title. Just double click on that and mention there is a Pareto chart. Speedometer defects, right? Yeah,
Mm.
it's a very simple. Now, the another thing as a part of this Pareto chart that we need to understand, many times it is not like that the number of defects. Sometimes it is like that it's a combination of two important things that we need to focus. For example, let's say we are going to focus on not on number of defects, on the cost, the rework cost, right? Now, in that case, we also need to check what is the cost. What is the cost for each of these defect which is required for repair. So we need to add the another column here, which is a cost. Here it is. So what we had done now in this example here, we have added the cost here. That means for each of the defect, what is the cost that is required to repair that particular defect. So we need to make the multiplication of these two, like counts into cost. So we will be having the total cost for that particular defect. So if you see here, if we do that multiplication by dragging and dropping, we can see we got the what is the defect and for that what is the total rework cost. Now again, we can follow the same methodology to draw the Pareto chart, but here we need to select these defects and count into cost column. Then go to the inside, click on this Pareto chart, again select this Pareto chart, so you will get this graph, right? That means the intent is going to be changed. This is so powerful tool. That means if you're going to have the clarity on that, on which area you want to focus or which area you want to prioritize, you can use the this simple tool but more powerful tool to clarify that or to display that. For example, if your area is just to focus on the number of defects, we can get missing screw as the first category. So we need to focus on the missing screws. But if your area of interest is not the defect, if it is a cost, then we need to focus on leaky gasket because it is having the major contributor, right? So it is totally depending on what is the area that you want to prioritize, and we can use the Pareto chart accordingly. Okay, is it clear? Great, thank you. So the second tool that think we are lagging time. So I already given you the this template. So you just go through this template, and if you are having any questions, you can ask me later. So there is another tool, prioritization matrix, that we can use. That means once we identify all the opportunities for the improvement, we can prioritize them based on this prioritization matrix. Okay. So the template is available here. So you can go through it later and you can come to me if you're having any questions. Okay. Due to time constraint, I'm not taking this.
Right, right.
Okay. Now let's go to,
We are
yeah.
assigning some score over there, right?
Yes, yes, yes. So
The way we do risk prioritization, FMEA.
right,
Right.
right, right.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. The score is like that. There are two things. One is importance scoring, and there is association score. So the importance score we are going to provide from 1 to 10, and association score we are going to provide like 0, 1, 3, and 9.
Right,
So that we are going to provide, and if you put that, you are getting automatically which project or which activity we need to prioritize.
right, right.
Okay, so there is a huge list of tools into the define phase itself, but I think it's really uh,
Yeah, yeah, got it. Got it.
big for us. Okay, thank you so much. Okay, so I have explained the first category of the define phase. Now let's talk about the next tool, which is used for the voice of customer. So how we can identify the voice of customer? Again, there are many tools that we are going to use here, and there are many definitions. But I'm going to focus on one important tool that everyone need to understand as a Lean Six Sigma or Six Sigma professionals. That thing is like, it's not the customer job to know what they want. It's our responsibility that we need to identify, okay, what is the requirement of the customer, and we need to develop our product and service to match that. Okay, so always be lean, always be like flexible to accommodate what is the customer requirement, right? So that's why if you can also see the whatever the things that I'm getting, the suggestions and everything I'm getting incorporated into my trainings, because it's very important to understand the customers. Now when we talk about the customer and voice of the customer, this is the very important model we need to understand, that is called as a Kano model. And why it is important, you will understand here. This model is so magical that it is explaining the exact customer behavior and how it is getting shifted from one phase to the another phase. Now, what is the meaning of that? Let's go into the detail. This is developed by the Japanese DQM consultant Noriyuki Kano, and from his name, it is called as Kano model. Now, when we talk about the Kano model, there are two important things. Here is a one, customer satisfaction and with product characteristics. So there are two things we are going to compare into the one graph. One is the customer satisfaction, and second one is how that function of the particular characteristic is going to be work, right? Customer satisfaction and how it is going to be work. Our product, how it is going to be performed. Now the product characteristics, what is this product characteristics? These are the features or capabilities of the product. Now, when we talk about these product characteristics that are divided into four categories as a part of this Kano model. This is called as dissatisfies, also called as must be. I'm just using the one word so that you won't have the confusion. Dissatisfies, satisfies, delighters, and indifferent. These are the four product categories. Now, what is the meaning of that? So before to understand these four product characteristics, we need to understand the Kano model. This Kano model is having the two axes. One is called the x-axis and another is a y-axis. On the x-axis, we are having the functionality. Now, what is the meaning of that functionality? How our product is going to be performed. Like it didn't do it at all. That means performance of product is worst. Did it very well. That means performance of product is best. So it is going to be from worst to best for our functionality of the product. Whereas y-axis talks about what is the customer satisfaction. It is from totally dissatisfied to the total satisfied. So these are the two graphs. If you go into the more detail here it is, you can see the y-axis goes from y-axis indicates customer satisfaction, and it goes from frustrated to the delighted. At the center intersection of the x and y-axis, it will be like neutral. He is neither dissatisfied nor satisfied. Whereas when we talk about the x-axis, it talks about the functionality. That means how it is going to be work, not working at all, and best performing, right? Now these two are merged together to create this Kano model. The first characteristic, first thing of this Kano model is the performance. Now, what is this performance? Performance, if you see, they are behaving like this. Okay, on y-axis we are having the satisfaction, on x-axis we are having the functionality. And if you talk about the product characteristics which are performance, then they are having the trend like this. Now what is the meaning of that? When you are buying a car, its gas mileage is usually a performance attribute. That means, for example, if you talk about, if you are going to select the car, we talk about what is its gas mileage. If it is more gas mileage, you can say you will be the more happy. So this performance characteristic is like that. The more you have of each of those, the greater your satisfaction. Like for example, internet connection speed, laptop battery life, storage space in your Dropbox account. So if you get more, you will be more satisfied. So simply, it is like directly proportional. If you're having the more performance characteristics into your product or service, the customer will be more satisfied. But we also need to look for the cost perspective. As we are going to provide the more and more, the cost is also going to be improved. Cost is also going to be increased, right? So that's why please look at this first characteristic, which is performance. As we are going to provide more to the customer, more satisfaction will be for the customer. Is it clear for the performance?
Yes.
Great. Now, second one is must be. Now, what is this must be? This is called as dissatisfiers. That means if you're not going to provide them to the customer, customer will be unhappy. If the product doesn't have them, it will be considered to be incomplete or plain bad. This is a basic expectations. But if you provide them to the customer, customer will not be happy. If we see the graph or this trend of this must be, it is like that. It is not at all on the positive side of the satisfaction. It is below the positive side of the satisfaction. So it is always in negative, right? If you are going to provide to customer, customer not going to be satisfied. But if you don't provide, customer will be highly dissatisfied. These are called as dissatisfiers. Now, why it is so? Because these are taken as a granted. They are basic expectation. Let's talk about the brakes of the car, right? Phone call or water in the hotel room. So this is like the basic necessity. They must be there, right? So these are called as dissatisfiers. How the satisfaction curve behaves in case of dissatisfied? The satisfaction never even touches to the positive side of the dimension. So if you're going to consider any industry, any product, it is having all these four characteristics. One is performance, second one is must be, and third one is called as a attractive. Now, if you see the attractive, that is opposite of the must be. They're not having any point on the lower side of the satisfaction. So they are always starting from the positive side of the satisfaction. Now, why it is so? Because that are unexpected features that we are going to provide to the customer. When presented, cause a positive reaction. These are also called as attractive, exciters, or delighters. For example, you might see that when we use the Google Map first time, or when we use the iPhone or iPad first time, it's like fluid touch screen interface give us a feel okay, like wow, right? First time we use the Google Maps, if or Google Docs, we feel okay, wow, how it is working, right? So it is like delighted. We are getting more delighted because of these features. These are called as attractive. Now the fourth characteristic is indifferent. Now, if you see, the performance is like more you are going to provide to the customer, customer will be more happy. For dissatisfier, if you are going to provide to the customer will not be happy. But if you don't provide them, they will be highly dissatisfied. For the third one that we had seen attractive, so the customer will be always happy as we are going to provide to it. But the fourth one is like indifferent. It doesn't matter whether you are going to provide more value or less value, customer is not getting affected from it. Now, what are the example for this? It's like when we talk about the color of the internal electrical cables in case of the car, or when you are visiting the restaurant, what is the inventory management system of the restaurant, or if you are traveling to the airline, what is the fuel cost that airline is using, right? So that is doesn't matter to the customer. So there are some characteristics which are having no difference from the customer perspective. They are called as indifferent. Is it clear?
Hello.
Yes. Is it clear?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay, great. Now, the next, let's take an example and let's try to identify. For this example, let's say we are having this pen which is available in three colors. What will be the performance for this? What will be the performance characteristic?
Like quality of writing, the
Absolutely,
ink should not come out and all. Yeah.
absolutely. So it is like smooth writing, right?
Yes, yes.
Smooth writing is a performance. What is a must be?
Must have ink. That is the must, or it must have refill.
Okay, okay. Yeah, we can say, yeah, it must have the right. Absolutely, yes. There is another one is like easy to hold design.
Easy to hold
Absolutely.
design. Yes.
Whatever the you said is also absolutely right. There must be the ink into the pen, right? Absolutely. What is attractive?
Attractive here will be design and color, like look and color.
Absolutely. It's like availability in different color and what is
Yes.
the design, right?
Correct.
What is the indifferent here, which is not important to the customer?
Not important to the customer might be, say for example, if the pen is made by a particular company and he is using the refill of some other company, right?
Okay.
So that can be one of the indifferent, like customer doesn't want from where he is purchasing, which is his vendor, right?
Okay. That can be absolutely. But
Yes.
let's take if we take the simple example like color of the refill,
Color of the refill, right?
right?
Yes, yes, yes.
So inside the pen, what is the color of the refill? It doesn't matter to the customer, right?
Right.
So I think you got an idea. So if we talk about this Canon model, this is extremely important as we are going to discuss, as we are going to work on the define phase. So once we are going to define, at that time we are going to understand the customer. So when we are going to discuss about the customer, voice of the customer, we must understand what is the performance must be attractive and indifferent to the customer. And we must have the more focus on how we can improve the performance, how we can reduce the must be, and how we can provide some attractive so that customer get delighted. This is specifically more important when we are going to focus on the projects which are related to the customer satisfaction, right?
Yes.
Right. Now, here is a one important concept that we need to understand that is called as a natural decay of the delight, right? Now, what is the meaning of that? What is the delighted today? What are the delighters today that is going to be converted into satisfier tomorrow? And that is going to be converted into the dissatisfier on day after tomorrow, right? So that means as the time is going to be passed, delighters is getting converted to the satisfier and satisfied is moving to the dissatisfied. That is called as natural decay of delight. Now, what is the thing that we are that is getting delighted to us today is no guarantee that is getting delighted to us tomorrow also, right? It is basic as it is becoming as a basic necessity. For example, if you see, if your phone is not having the Google Map and all that Google Docs, you will be like not totally, or if it is present into the system, it is not giving you the satisfaction. But if it is not, then it is like you're getting dissatisfied, right? It's a basic expectations now.
These
So
are being
which,
taken as for granted, taken for granted.
yes, absolutely. So where some years before it was like delighters, now they are like dissatisfiers. That you must have that. And that's why if you see the diagram of the Kano model is with the arrow, this arrow with the time, right? So exciting quality or this, I can say the delighters are moving to normal quality or performance as a part of this time as the time goes. And further, if the time is going, it is going to convert it into the dissatisfiers. So it is like that there is a natural decay of delight. Delight is getting converted to dissatisfiers as the time passes. That is a very beautiful concept which is explained by the Kano model. So we also need to understand, okay, we are talking about the customer satisfaction, let's say 2 years, 3 years before, but still the customer wants the same things? Absolutely not. The customer requirements had changed. So we also need to be changed accordingly, right?
Right.
That's the really powerful tool it is, Kano model. Okay, I think I have explained the two tools. One is
Yes,
for the
yes.
project identification and one is for the voice of the customer. So this is the exercise that I'm giving to you. So I'm not asking you to do that exercise now during the session, but after session, please complete that. This exercise is like that. Come up with a list of performance, delight, and must be for the hospitality industry. So this is the room service into the hospitality services. And I'm going to share this picture with you, right? So these are the some items like coach with side table, cosmetic products, beverages in the room, internet access. So we need to provide all these product characteristics into the performance, must be, attractive, and into the indifferent. Okay, so I will share this screenshot after the end of the training. So you need to perform this. Can you do that?
Yes.
Great. So that is the first exercise. Great. Now let's move to the measure phase. We are somewhat.
Into major phase, sir.
Yeah, please.
In define phase, we talked about identification of problems. So one tool we talked about Pareto,
Yes.
and the other also we touched base that prioritization matrix, right?
Right.
What are some other tools, sir?
Okay,
What are
so
some other tools? Just
there is.
name, no, nothing to get into details.
Okay, so there are like SIPOC is there. SIPOC we are going to use. There is a SWOT analysis and TOS analysis
Is
also.
there, yeah.
SWOT analysis, TOS analysis also there. Then project charter, project tracker, 7 management and planning tools. So out of that also we are using the affinity diagram, the relationships diagram. So there are many tools that we are going to use as a part of it.
Okay, got it.
It's a big bucket.
Yeah, got it.
Okay.
Yes.
Great. Thank you. Okay, now let's go to the measure phase. Now, when we talk about the measure phase, is like into the define phase, we identify the practical problem. Even if you can relate to the during the introduction of the Six Sigma, I explained that how this approach is going to be work. That means in define phase, we are going to define what is the practical problem that we are going to define. Into the measure phase, we are going to quantify that problem in terms of factors and responses so that we can take the actions on it and we can solve that. So the starting of the measure phase is like we are going for the data collection. And at the end of the measure phase, we'll be having the statistical problem ready that we are going to solve, right? Here, we are going to use the various tools, like we are going to start with process mapping. We are going to use the various process map tools here, like causative effect matrix, value stream mapping, spaghetti diagram. We can also use the, here, the most important part that we need to understand the statistical concept, like we need to understand what is the probability, what are the various types of distributions, statistical distribution, depending on the continuous data, attribute data, what is this measurement system analysis, and again, one of the critical concepts is a capability analysis. So everything is a part of this measure phase. This measure phase is the, I can say, the biggest phase into the all these phases, almost I can say contributing. If you're going to complete the define and measure phase, you've completed almost 50% of your project. So that much of weightage these two phases are having, define and measure. Now, if you talk about the measure phase, let's understand what is the approach in that. Once we get the clarity about what is the approach, you will understood the measure phase very clearly. Now here, we are going to start with the collection of the basic data. So when we are going to improve anything, we must have something for the comparison so that we can have the before and after, right? So, and at the same time, we also need something to work on. That's why it's very important so to have the baseline data. And here, that baseline data we are going to collect. This baseline data is on the defect. Now, don't confuse with the defect because defect is nothing but the unwanted results. So it can be, we can talk about the excessive variation, or it can be related to the more lead time, anything, right? Which is undesirable to the customer, we are calling it as a defect. So it's not just the product defect, it can be the process defect, service defect, or anything. Even if you are having the more lead time, it is again the defect on which we are going to work, right? So when we talk about the collection of the data for the baseline, we need to collect the data to define when we are going to talk about the problem, what is the exact current situation of that problem. For example, if you are going to discuss about the lead time, we need to identify what is the exact lead time. We are going to talk about the particular product defect level, then what is the current defect level of that particular product? What is the PPM level? So we must know that. And what are the possible causes of it, right? So here we are not going to the root cause directly. Here we're just going to identify what are the all possible causes. Then when we are going for the data collection, we also need to do that is by the power and sample size. So when we are going to use any tool into the future, into the analyze phase, we need to understand, okay, when we are going to use this tool, what are the data requirement of that tool? Now, please make a note of it. It's a very important point. Whatever the tool that we are going to use into the Lean Six Sigma, every tool is having some considerations, some requirements. That requirements we need to follow stringently. Otherwise, we are not getting the correct analysis of the results. For example, if you are going to use any tool like correlation regression analysis, we must have the data which is collected as a continuous data. Otherwise, we are not going to conduct the correlation analysis on that, right? So we need to understand what is the power and sample size. What are the considerations for it? Once we define that, then it is also consists of what is the type of data that you are going to collect, what is the sampling method that we are going to use, what will be the sample size, depending on what is the power that we are going to define. Once we define that, then we need to validate our measurement system. For that purpose, we are going to use the various tools, like we are going to use the type 1 gauge study, linearity and bias study. We are going to use the gauge R&R, right? We are also going to use the attribute agreement analysis. By using them, we are going to validate whether our measurement system is capable or not. If it is not, then we need to first improve our measurement system. Now, in my, I can say the journey, I had seen around 30% of the projects are having the problem with the measurement system. So that means no need to go to the analyze phase. I solve these problems, I solve these projects into the measurement phase itself. Why? Because there is a problem into the measurement system. You're not collecting the data accurately, and that's why it is leading to the wrong conclusions. So we need to check whether your measurement system is capable or not, right? For example, in one of my projects, we are taking the actions on the total number of complaints by the customer. And once after taking multiple actions, still we are seeing that the customer complaints are not improving. Now, what is the problem with that? So once we start this approach from zero, like when we go into the details of measurement system analysis, we found out that the method by which customer is putting the complaint into the system, that system was not correct, because he is getting only one or two options to put that, and he is putting any defect which is coming into that. And that's why whatever the impact or whatever the efforts that you are going to put into that defect, that is not getting reflected, right? So that's why it's very important to focus on the measurement system analysis. Once we do that, then once we collect the primary data, we need to analyze that by using the graphical tools. Why so? Because graphical tools are very powerful and that are working like a screening. So that are clarifying the path for you. So to identify what are the next tool that you want to use, what is the next step that we want to take. That's why we need to use these powerful graphical tools here. And that is done by into this fourth step of this measure phase. Into the last phase, we need to check what is the current process capability of our process. Now, why it is so? Because we also need to check what is our capability of the process to meet the customer expectations, where we are. And based on that, we can also calculate the after process capability, and we can see how much improvement that we had done with respect to the baseline, right? So everything is in line. We need to collect the baseline data. For that purpose, we must have the sampling strategy. We must collect the data by using the validate or capable measurement system. We must use the graphical tools so that we can have the clarity for what are the next tools that we need to use, and how we can relate, or how we can only focus on the important factors. And at the same time, we can also calculate what is the capability of the process. Is it clear, this approach?
Yes, sir.
Great. This is a very powerful slide.
Yeah, this is the approach for measure phase itself, right?
Yeah, this is only the measure phase. Yes. Great. So if you see what is the input? Input is like we are going to start the data collection, right? And the end of the phase, at the end of the phase, we are having the clarity about what is the problem. What is the problem that we have already converted into statistical. Now we are having the statistical problem statement. Now, if you think about the analyze phase, the starting phase of the analyze phase will be define, formulate the focus problem statement. That will be the start of the analyze phase. Now that focus problem statement will be the statistical problem statement.
Right.
Okay.
So basically, we check whether our measuring systems are okay or not, right? In measure phase.
Right. It's
So,
not
sir,
it's not
what?
only about the measurement system, but we are starting from the process mapping here, right? We are going to do the process mapping. After that, I can say it's like zoom in. So we are zooming into the process. We are looking for, okay, what are the areas, how the process is happening exactly, and
Yes.
what is our area of concern. And we are going into that area of concern, and then we are collecting the data there. Now, whatever the data that we are going to collect, that will be with valid measurement system. At the same time, we are also checking, okay, we have considered this, let's say 100 factors. Out of that, what are the factors on which we need to focus? So first screening we are going to do. And we are also going to check, okay, in this situation, what is the capability of our process?
So what
Okay.
we do in the fourth step, analyze patterns in data, because the third step itself is analyze, define, measure, analyze.
No, it's not that analyze. It's like
Ah,
analyze patterns in the data.
right,
For example, once you, let's say we are having the 10 factors, okay? We are having the one response. Let's say we
right,
are going to work on the product quality, and for that, there are 10 factors which are affecting product quality.
right.
Now, how these 10 factors are working? What is the process of that 10 factors, right? So what kind of distribution they are having? So we are going to plot the control chart, or we are going to use the histogram there to see what is the pattern into that. Or we can also use the box plot. We can also use the histogram and other charts to see how that particular factor is behaving.
Right.
Okay. So it's not about that analyze. It's analyze like patterns in the data. Once we collect the, I can say the data, what is the pattern that it is indicating?
Okay, so there is some overlapping between this analyze and the analyze phase, third step.
Once we go to the analyze phase, we are
There,
totally focusing on the problem statement that we have formed, right? So
okay,
there we can say at the end of the measure phase, we will be having the clear definition of what will be our response and what
okay,
will be our factors. And now we are going to see what is the relationship between them.
okay.
We are going to start working on that.
Got
So
it. We are further narrowing down our problem.
yes, absolutely. So it's like a screening, identifying what are the important ones, and that is done in a very systematic way. That's why the
Right,
measure phase is most important phase, most critical
right,
phase into
right,
DMAC.
right. Got it.
Great. That's a really great question, Ganga Prasad. Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay. Now, if you see, this is the biggest phase, and it consists of the process analysis and documentation. Why it is? Because we are going to do the process analysis. We are going to use the various tools for it. And by thereby, we are going to identify what is the exact area on which we are going to work. We are going to see what are the data collection, what are the various types of data, and how we are going to use the summarizing tools, right? So these summarizing tools are like once we collect the entire data, they are going to summarize. Okay, not no need to focus on the entire thing, just focus on these things. So that summarizing tools also we are going to use. Here we are having the help from the graphical tools. Then we also need to understand the probability and statistics, because everything is going to be started in terms of statistics now. We are going to define our practical problem into the statistical problem. It consists of the measurement system analysis and process and performance capability. So this is, I can say, again a big list of tools that we'll be having into this bucket. Now, think okay, let's talk about the first basic part of this process analysis and documentation. But before to understand, or before to go into the detail that we need to understand here, let me let's cover the basics of it instead of going into the more detail. Let's cover the basics of it, this measure phase. Let's talk about what are the various important concepts from which we need to start the measure phase. So the thing is like that, when I have designed this content, so I'm not assume anything. Okay, when I'm designing any part, or I can say that any single element, any single tool into my entire training program, I didn't assume that you are having that much of knowledge, or you know something about it. So I'm always starting from scratch. So instead of just covering, okay, let's go to the probability and let's see how we can collect the data. No, I'm starting from scratch. What is exactly the data first? Okay. So the data is nothing but the numerical expression of any activity. So any activity that we do, and if you're going to convert that activity in terms of data, facts and figures, then it is called as a data, right? Now, why it is important? Again, I need to answer that question, because just what is the data, and if you start collection of it, it is nothing going to work. But if you know why we are going to do that, then the intention is going to be changed. The clarity you will get and the speed of implementation is going to be improved. That's why I'm always providing some evidences that will help to support that. So why it is important to talk in terms of data? Here it is. Conclusions based on the fact and data are necessary for any improvement. That means if you don't have the fact and data, you cannot do any kind of improvement. That is a statement from Kaura Ishikawa. Another statement we had seen yesterday: if you are not able to express a phenomena in numbers, you do not know about it adequately. You just know about that concept, I can say, superficially, not in depth. That's why it's very important to talk in terms of data. Now, once we understood what is the data, then we also need to understand what are the types of data. Okay, so I'm going to provide the more clarity on you that what are the types of data and what are the types of measurement scales and how we are going to use them so that we can go for the further measure phase very smoothly. Now, why it is so? Because when we talk about the type of data, there are two types of data mainly: continuous data and attribute data, or it is also called as a discrete data. Okay, so again, I can say the discrete data is having the another types, but I'm not going to the details because it might be more confusing. So just focus on two things. There are only two types of data. One is continuous data. Second one is attribute, or you can call it as a discrete data at this point of time. Okay. Now, what is a continuous data? Continuous data is any data that is expressed in terms of fractions. Very simple. Continuous data is any data that is converted or that is expressed in terms of fractions, like weight, length, rate, anything that we are discussing, it's always expressed in terms of fractions, like 500.3, 499.3, something like that. So it is called as continuous data. Second type of data is a attribute data or discrete data. Now this type of data is called as discrete or attribute because it is always expressed in terms of full number, count, like number of broken bulbs. We are always saying like 1, 2, 3, 4. We cannot say 4.4. We are always saying it's a full number of broken bulbs. Number of patients visiting to the hospital. It's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 10, 15. It's not like 0.5, 0.6, something like that. So it's always a whole number, right? So when we talk about the data and we express it in terms of fractions, it's a continuous data. When we express in terms of whole number, it is called as a discrete data. Is it clear?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So can we conduct a small exercise to understand?
Yeah, yeah, sure.
Yeah. So this is the exercise. Which of the below are continuous and discrete data? Productivity of agent. Productivity.
So if we are measuring in terms of percentage, that's continuous data.
Yes, a continuous data, right? Productivity
Yeah,
is always in terms of percentage, right?
yeah, yeah.
Tubes rejected by go, no go gauge.
Yeah, it's a discrete data because it
Discrete
will be
data.
in numbers only. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Diameter of piston.
Again, continuous.
Continuous. Sheet thickness.
Again, continuous because it can be expressed in any.
Yeah, it's a thickness, right? So it's
Yeah,
a,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
it's a continuous. Now, out of 100 sheets, the number of that meet the thickness 4 plus or minus 0.9.
Yeah, discrete because numbers that meet the discrete.
Absolutely, it's a discrete. Time taken to process a purchase order.
Continuous again.
Continuous. Can be 4.5 minutes, right? Number of bugs in a program. Number of bugs.
Discrete. Number of bucks for
Discrete.
discrete.
Right. So I think you got in clarity, okay? So what is the difference between continuous and discrete data? Now, this is the next part which is not required immediately, but you must have the understanding of it, because once we go into the analyze phase,
So before we get into here, just a small doubt.
yeah,
What will be salary and marks? Salary like marks. We say no, I got 70 marks in math,
right.
or my salary is this much. And so
Yes, yes, yes.
salary and marks, what will be whether they will be discrete or continuous?
Yes. If you're going to express that in terms of percentage, let's say you're saying like, I got 50.5 percentage. Okay. If you're going to express that in percentage, it's a continuous data. If you're going to express it as a like as a whole mark, then it will be the like discrete data. You're going to say like I got 600 marks. So it cannot be 600.2 marks. It will be always a whole number. But if you talk in terms of percentage, it will be continuous data. Now, the same data, the beauty of data is like that. Same data can be expressed in terms of discrete and continuous data by taking some actions. Okay. Same data, which is represented or that can be represented into both the things. For example, the same example, if you can take, if you talk about the number of marks got in one subject, right? So we can call it as a discrete data. But if you can convert that into percentage, that, okay, how many percentage you got as a total, as a whole, or I can say how many number of students in the class got so much of marks. Okay, so it will be like percentage, right?
And salary, sir, salary?
Salary is again I think if you're going to express that in terms of point, how many
Yeah.
paisa,
Oh,
how
then
many
it's
paisa,
continuous. Yeah.
yes. If you
Okay,
just
got it.
explain it's a whole, like I got 50,000 salary, so it's like it's a discrete data.
Okay, got it.
Now, why it is important to understand these two things? Because if you see the continuous data and discrete data, it is always preferable to convert the discrete data into the continuous data and try to be first choice to have the to collect the data in continuous format. Why? There are two important reasons. First one is continuous data is more powerful because it is carrying the more information. Second, you are having the number of tools that you can use on a control continuous data that is a huge. It's a huge tools, huge techniques you can use on the continuous data. Whereas if you talk about the attribute data, it carries the less information. That means we need to investigate, we need to go into the more detail if you want to research on that. Second, there are the number of tools that you can use, there are very limited tools for the attribute data. So we need to meet only those tools criteria, and sometimes it is really difficult for data collection. That's why it is always preferable to convert the data into the continuous data while you are going to collect the data collection, right? It's a very important point. Now, let's talk about the scales. Now, these scales are like we are going to mention them when we are going to collect that data. When we are going to collect the data, that is expressed into four important measurement scales. Now, these scales are coming from the type of data itself. For example, there are two main types of data. One is called as a quantitative data. What is this quantitative? As the name indicates, that is expressed in terms of quantity.
Like numerical data. Yeah.
Right, numerical data. So it's like a discrete and continuous, as you already see. Continuous is like expressed in terms of fractions. Discrete is like not expressed in terms of fractions, it's expressed as a whole number. Now,
Right.
what is a qualitative? As the name indicates, it's a qualitative. So it is not having any number, right? It is like nominal data and ordinal data. Now, what is this exactly? Let's go into the detail onto the next slide. Okay, so you'll have more clarity on that. What is a nominal data? Nominal data is like there is no numeric meaning for this data. For example, what is the color of the eye? What is the color of the wires? Right? But in some cases related to our project, we need to collect this data, numeric, nominal data. But don't forget that whenever you are going to convert that or collect this nominal data, try to convert that data into the continuous data so that you can take the actions on it. You can use the various tools on it, right? But coming back to the point, what is a nominal data? What is a nominal scale? It's like no numeric meaning and no particular order. Whereas ordinal data is like there is an order into the data as indicates. Just have the, remember the word, nominal. Nominal, there means there is no numeric meaning. Ordinal, there is order into the data. Like chilies are hot, hotter, hottest, happy, neutral, unhappy. So there is some order. Interval data is like that there is a slots and every this slot is having some importance. The interval data is also having the negative and positive both values. Okay, like for example, the temperature. Whereas ratio is like it is also having the, I can say, the steps, intervals, but in this case, there is a true zero exists. That means they're exactly starting from the zero. For example, weight, it cannot be negative. It is always positive. Height, again, it is always positive. So the difference between interval and ratio is like that. Interval can go on lower side, negative side. Ratio is only talks about the 0 onwards. Okay, so these are the 4 types of measurement scales. Now, why it is important to understand, because many times we are going to collect the data around this or in that type, but irrespective of whatever the data that you are going to collect, please have that ultimate goal, how we can convert that into the continuous data. Is it clear?
Yes, sir, clear. Sir, can we go back to previous slide,
Yeah,
sir?
please,
That
please, yeah.
scale.
Yes.
Previous slide, sir.
This one, yeah.
Yeah, this one, sir. Yeah, nominal, ordinal are clear. That qualitative can be measured in terms of nominal and ordinal.
Right.
But in case of quantitative, why we are showing interval and ratio under continuous only? I think it should be under both, na? Like discrete and continuous, both can be measured in terms of interval and ratio.
No, if you say the discrete is like always
Discrete
expressed in
means
terms.
count, yeah, whole number count, right?
Yes, yes, yes. So
So,
that
so
cannot be
say for
expressed in terms of interval and ratio. Interval and ratio is only for the continuous data.
no, just a doubt came to my mind. Say for
Yes,
example,
yes, yes.
number of defects, right?
Mhm.
Number of defects are always expressed in terms of count, right? Five
Yes,
defects, ten
yes,
defects. So
yes, yes.
there also that zero, it's a true zero because zero defects means no defect, right?
Yes, yes,
Correct?
absolutely, absolutely.
So
Yes.
ratio is applicable over there. The ratio
No.
skill is applicable over number of children a person has, right? So
Yes.
zero children means it's a zero, true zero. Person is not having any children. So ratio is applicable.
Right, right. But we also need to look for other definition. Okay, so you can see there are 2 parts. Okay,
Right,
scale has a measurable interval.
right,
Interval is there, like for example,
right.
we are going to talk about like let's say weight, like 0 1 2 3 4 5, right?
Correct,
And
correct.
the difference between each of these entity, we can see it has a meaning. We can take
Yes,
the
yes.
ratio of it. We can take the ratio of it.
In case of defect also we can take ratio, no, sir? Like 20 defects and 5 defects. So 20 defects is 4 times more than 5 defects. So there is a ratio, no? 4 times. And the number of
Yes.
children, one person is having 2 children and the other person is having 4 children. It means he is having double children than the first. Marks. Someone has
Okay.
got 60 marks.
Okay. But if you take the ratio, it is coming as a percentage, right?
No, not percentage. No, ratio means ratio. It's, uh, 20
Yeah.
by 5 means 4 times, or 20, or 5 by 20 means 1/4.
Right.
Anyhow,
Okay.
got it. Okay.
Okay.
I
Okay.
thought that there must be some rationale behind that. Okay, got it, sir.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay. So this is a second example that we will take. Let's take an example of tennis ball. Let's say you are a management team of a manufacturing plant of a tennis ball. Now let's list out a different data and try to quantify that into 3 things, like continuous data, attribute data, or continuous data and attribute data. Try to convert that into 2 categories. Okay, so this is the, let's say we have identified these are the characteristics like weight, diameter, circumference, bounce rate, color, inside air pressure, rubber, and elasticity. Okay, so this is the second example that I will put to you. So what I will give you after the end of the today's session, I will also take the picture of this and we'll also put into the group, and you need to mention, okay, what is the type of data for this? Weight, what kind of data it is? Diameter,
Continuous.
yeah.
Continuous. Yeah,
Yeah, I
okay.
think okay, you already have know about it. Okay, let's do that. Weight is continuous.
Continuous.
Diameter,
Continuous.
circumference,
Even that is also continuous.
bounce rate,
Now, rate, when rate is coming into picture, so it can be expressed in terms of percentage. So that is also
right,
continuous. Yeah.
continuous. Color,
Color is it is just nominal data.
nominal data. Inside air pressure,
Continuous.
rubber.
Rubber means what? Weight of rubber or what?
Yes, I think it's a
Yeah.
rubber. Okay, rubber and elasticity is a one. Rubber
Yeah,
and
yeah,
elasticity.
continuous. Yeah, elasticity.
Continuous, right? Absolutely. So you already, I can say, finished that exercise.
Thank you,
Okay,
sir.
great.
So we are
Thank
saving
you.
time. Yeah.
Yeah, great. Okay, so I think we already surpassed the time. I think, shall we
Time is
continue?
over. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, time
it's
is over. Your class is so impressive that time simply flies.
okay. Okay. Thank you so much for your valuable appreciation. It's very important for me. Okay, so what I think I give you the feel like as a part of define phase, what is approach, and we had also seen one of two important tools from that. And as a part of measure phase, we also understood okay, what are the type of data and how we can differentiate between them. Okay, so these are the two important things we had seen. We had also seen what is the approach that we are going to use into the measure phase. If you see the bucket, the measure phase is having it's like a very huge. Let me see if I can recall for you the number of tools it is having.
Yeah, very good, very good.
Let me see if you're having that. Just give me a second. Let me see if I can recall that. Curriculum. It's there. Let me share you the screen. Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So if you see this even introduction, if you talk just about the introduction, it's a huge part. It's like basics of Six Sigma. We are covering everything like change management, deliverables, Six Sigma roles and responsibility, DFSS. So we didn't see that due to time constraint. Then what are the 7 elements? Value and foundation, introduction of lean. Yeah, I think we have covered that. But these are the major concepts like basics of Six Sigma metrics. I just covered the DPMO. Then business performance metrics, financial measures. So that also we need to understand here. Now, if you go for the define phase, you can see what are the tools that you ask. It's like Hoshin Canary model, SWOT analysis, Pareto, prioritization matrix, IPOC, benchmarking, portfolio analysis, and paste analysis. Then project management tools, we are having like this project metrics, project planning tools, work breakdown structure, tollgate reviews, RASI model, project risk, financial evaluation, project closure, and 7 management and planning tools, team management. This is again very important topic. What are the phases of stages of the team management, team facilitation, team dynamics, team training that are coming as a part of this. Major phase, it's the biggest one I can say. So it consists of many tools like value stream mapping, SIPOC, cause and effect, work instruction, flow chart, FMEA, all types of statistical and probability here, center limit theorem, normal distributions, data collection and summarizing tools like what is a type of data measurement skills, sampling, graphical tools. There is a huge list of graphical tools are like box plot, histogram, then stem and lip plot. There is a run chart. So there are many other tools that we are going to use here. Measurement system analysis, all these concepts. Then MSA for variable data and attribute data. And after that, it consists of the process capability for variable data, attribute data, and short-term and long-term capability. And then it is going to be start the analysis phase. So this is again a huge list of topics as a part of it. Okay. Do you have any questions, Ganga Prasad?
No, sir. No, no, no. Thank you.
Okay,
It was a nice session.
great, great. Thank you so much for
So
your
we will be
valuable
covering
time.
analyze.
Yes, tomorrow we will start with
Tomorrow,
analyze. Yes, and I will also explain how to move from measure to analyze and analyze to improve because it's a very important and because of the lack of clarity, people are having confusion between them. So I will also clarify that tomorrow.
right? Yes.
Thank you so much, Ganga Prasad. You are a real
Yes.
inspiration for me into this group because you are alone from start to end. See, I'm happy to conduct the session for one person also, but the dedication must be there. And I'm really
Thank
great honor for you. You're in this group. Thank you.
so
Thank you
nice
so
of
much.
you. And I'm also getting a lot of insights. The slides are really very impressive, and
Great,
your
great.
efforts are quite visible that you have given lots of efforts. So,
Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, then have a great evening. See you tomorrow. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Great.
Good
Please
night.
take
Yeah.
care. Okay, bye.